Hello, my name's Kate Mason, and I am coming from the Central Coast in New South Wales, Australia. We are becoming part of a megacity, six-city region, smart city, and it's going to run from Newcastle down through Sydney into Wollongong. So we have submissions open at the moment until Sunday, the 30th of October. And I wanted to share a slideshow that we have created to give the bigger picture. So to give, to talk about what they're saying and to also raise some concerns about that, some concerns we have in order to send through into our submission, in the hope and the likelihood that people will also have something that they would like to say and that the community will get behind this and have their own voice. For people who are watching this around the world, this may be of use because, as many of us are aware, what is happening locally in local areas is also happening globally. Okay, so we have a 6 cities region, smart city, 6 city vision. New South Wales state government report is open for community submissions until the 30th of October 2022. This is the email address where you can see the vision, and they discuss and they reference the 17 Sustainable Development Goals from the United Nations through the 6 cities vision. So how this came to pass, the 6 megacity, it came through the Greater Cities Commission Bill. The bill was passed in April 2022. It had both the main parties' support, and it was introduced by the New South Wales State Minister for Infrastructure, Cities, Active Transport, Rob Stokes. So the Greater Cities Commission Bill, it was passed within a 2-week period, so very, very quickly. And it accords the Greater Cities Commission an unelected level of governance where they sit above local council, in between local councils and state government. So clause 20 of the legislation requires local councils in the 6 cities region, if requested in writing by the Commission, to allow the Commission to have access to and take copies of documents held by the Council that are relevant to the functions of the Commission, and to provide the Commission with staff and facilities or other assistance as may be required to assist the Commission in exercising its functions. Clause 23 limits personal liability for matters or things done or omitted to be done in good faith for the purpose of executing the proposed act. So the governance model that they speak to, these are their words, this commission brings together state and local governments into a single commission model. It binds levels of government together in a more coordinated governance model. And how they sell this is because it's not political. It won't be influenced by whether or not Labor gets in or Liberal gets in. So they can therefore they have deep knowledge and connection to state and local government, and they can do long-term objectives and plans to manage and coordinate growth. So then they can withstand the short-term political pressures. So within the Greater Cities Commission, they have hired commissioners. So within the Central Coast, we have the Honourable Robin Parker, who is serving the Central Coast City. And the Greater Cities Commission has been charged with creating Australia's first global city region. So it's the first one in delivering global economic scale and local livability. And their words, they are the connective tissue between state and local government. They facilitate conversations and empower stakeholders to set common goals for their city. They ensure connectivity between the 6 cities region plan and their city plans, and that the ground up work done by local government and other entities informs into the city plans. And they've all just started 4-year terms. Now I'm going to bring in United Nations Agenda 21 because it's important to understand what we are seeing with this regionalisation, this megacity, is something that's happening all around the world. And you can find that out. It's easy to find that out. Just search for that. Just search megacity and it will come up. So it's important to understand the underbelly of the United Nations Agenda 21 and its later manifestations. And I recommend very much listening to Rosa, Koire and get a bit of context. And in here, I have a link to where she specifically speaks to the regionalisation aspect of Agenda 21. So Rosa Koire was an expert in land use and land valuation, and she explains that the UN Agenda 21 is an inventory and control plan of everything, and that sustainable development is about moving populations into city centres and clearing them out of the rural areas. So 4 minutes into this YouTube clip I put here, she explains that regionalisation is the stepping stone to globalisation, and globalisation is the standardisation of all systems. This includes water, law, enforcement, energy. All systems have to be brought into harmony to control them all. When systems are out of balance, when they can't be synced, they can't be controlled centrally. And the role of Agenda 21 is one world governance, total control from a central unit. She goes on to say UN Agenda 21 Sustainable Development is the comprehensive blueprint, the plan of action, as the UN calls it, to inventory and control all land, water, minerals, plants, animals, construction, means of production, energy, education, information, and all human beings in the world. This is the agenda for the 21st century. So Agenda 21 is agenda for the 21st century. It's a blueprint for 100 years with milestones. So you would have heard Agenda 2030, Agenda 2050. So they're just milestones for where you need to be up to by this time. So Agenda 21 Sustainable Development is the global plan for inventory and control, and it encompasses every aspect of our lives and is intended to be a wrenching transformation of your life. Although, so this is Rosa Koire speaking, although it is, as Wikipedia states, a non-binding voluntary agreement, Agenda 21 is binding on us. It's been written into the laws of our countries, including China and all Western and Middle Eastern nations, through a collaboration of government, corporations, and organizations and foundations. It's a global plan that's implemented locally, so it has a different name everywhere, but it is the same plan. And she says you'll see it as regional plans. They're all the same plan. They elevate major economic power centres to a supra-governmental status outside of and above the traditional representative government model. So the Commission is not part of our normal representative government model. These are the mega regions. They drive the economy and overpower the nation state. They combine parts of cities, states, and even combine nations, destroying boundaries and ignoring the legal jurisdictions by creating a new economic princedoms, new fiefdoms. Not government, but governance. Governance is a system made up of public sector agencies, non-profits, business organizations, advocacy groups, foundations, and corporations. You don't vote for any of it. The larger the entity, the less power we have. We get taken out of the picture, our voice gets taken out of the picture, and this is a new global state in which you are a global citizen. So we are heading in this direction. So what is the Agenda 21 plan? When it's shown to the public, it's primarily a land use plan. The plan is designed to corral populations into what the United Nations call islands of human habitation. Of course, once you're in that concentrated island of human habitation, formerly called a city, you are more easily managed, controlled, and surveilled. And so here I've just got where the link to where you can see her talk on this, and then I've got the link to the United Nations Agenda 21. And just so Graham Williamson, there's a link to here of how he's spelled out how Agenda 21 has been embedded into Australian policy and Australian law. So the sixth mega city is a smart city. And what is that? I don't think many people know what a smart city is. So these are the 6 characteristics of a smart city. I'll just read out a few of them. It uses smart energy. So buildings are efficient and use less energy. The energy is analysed to collect relevant information. Intelligent networks and smart street lights mark the entrance of a smart city because LED lights, it's all LED lighting, and it's Smart meters are installed in homes. The Internet of Things contributes to better network management. So everything we have smart technology in our homes, and the lighting on the streets and the rubbish bins, and everything uses the internet and communicates to everything else. Of course, this relies very heavily on data. So smart data, a smart city collects huge amounts of data to be analysed rapidly to provide useful information to residents. Smart infrastructure. The analysis of large volumes of data enables proactive maintenance and better planning for the future. Connected devices. The Internet of Things devices are a key element of a smart city. The integrated sensors in these devices gather useful data that can be analysed to obtain relevant information. And connected mobility. It's essential to move data without interruption through various administrative systems to build a smart city. So smart cities are incredibly data heavy. Everything is analysed, it is recorded. You have your meters in your homes, and it's counting how much of what you use. So the elephant in the room is that data, all this data usage and data storage uses a huge amount of power. So massive as data center energy use may already be, it's nothing to what lies in store, analysts warn. Britain's foremost data center expert and a visiting professor at the University of Leeds said the amount of energy used by data centers is doubling every 4 years. As a result, analysts forecast that data centers will consume roughly treble the amount of electricity in the next decade. And I think that article is from about 2018. In the report, they give this example. So they say the San Francisco Bay Area is home to Silicon Valley, the world's flagship hub for technology, innovation, and entrepreneurship. It also has a high concentration of Fortune 500 companies. So they're saying this in the report as though this is really good news. And my question to New South Wales government is, how do they reconcile that the Fortune 500 companies have record profits over the last few years, whilst the divide between the supremely wealthy and people falling into poverty has accelerated exponentially? So in 2022, together, the 500 corporations on this list, on this year's list, this is Forbes, this is the Fortune 500 companies, the wealthiest companies in the world, they generated in 2022, the 500 most wealthiest companies generated a record $16.1 trillion in revenue and $1.8 trillion in profits. Whilst Oxfam gives this sobering information, the world's 10 richest men more than doubled their fortunes from 700 billion to 1.5 trillion at a rate of 15,000 per second, or 1.3 billion a day, during the first 2 years of a pandemic that has seen the incomes of 99% of humanity fall and over 160 million more people forced into poverty. I'm just giving an overview, and then I'm going to get into the visions. So they talk about the need to collaborate with community in this plan. A key objective of the Greater Cities Commission is to engage and collaborate with stakeholders to develop productive, sustainable, and livable communities. So we are a stakeholder. The community is a stakeholder. And if you look through the UN Agenda 21, it highlights the necessity for community collaboration. So what is this 6 cities vision? So they envision a connected region of 6 cities where we can move people and goods across the region in 90 minutes, and everyone in the region is digitally and globally connected in a nanosecond. In each city, great jobs are 30 minutes by public transport from great homes. The wisdom and aspirations of First Nations peoples are recognised and embedded in planning for our future, and we care for country. Housing's more affordable and accessible, leveraging our transport and social infrastructure investments, with the governments playing a material role in enabling supply. Local infrastructure and growth are strategically coordinated to leverage diverse centres that support their communities. An interconnected ecosystem of innovation districts linked to places of learning supercharges knowledge jobs across the region while supporting the broader jobs economy. And our region is recognised for its global climate leadership. Net zero is embedded in our housing, transport, and infrastructure, and is a major part of our global economic future. The six cities, so the six megacity justifies their six region shapers through the United Nations 17 Strategic Development Goals, as I said earlier, which are the mechanisms by which Agenda 2030-2050 will be implemented. And as an aside, the wealthiest corporates are involved heavily in this. In 2019, the World Economic Forum created a strategic partnership with the UN to speed up the implementation of the 17 Strategic Development Goals. Who doesn't trust a multinational corporate to have the best interests of the people at heart? So these are some questions I've got, or we've got, through the different six region shapers. So region shaper 1 is embedded Indigenous voices. And the questions are, how are they going to reconcile Indigenous voices who question the validity of land councils selling off specific parcels of land for development? There are already current concerns in the Central Coast of Aboriginal sacred land being sold to developers through the local land council. How do they reconcile this dilemma so concerns are dealt with in a transparent manner? Who will be in the First Nations advisory panel? And how are they going to judge that this is the correct fit? What plans do they have in place for reconciling any concerns from the First Nations community regarding who is placed on the advisory panel? So Region Shaper 2, Connected Six Cities region. There are a few components. So digital access, smart technology. The plan references smart technology a couple of times. So, but they don't explain what smart city technology is. So what do they mean by smart city technology? How do they justify the level of energy used for data storage implicit in smart city technology? How do they foresee artificial intelligence used in smart cities impacting on people's jobs? What are the privacy implications of smart technology? What are the public's protections regarding data? And they have not addressed artificial intelligence technologies, which are set to change the work landscape. Many jobs will be done away with through AI. In a plan addressing work-life connectivity, this is a serious oversight. Region Shaper 2 with the fast train. Who has the contract for the smart train? What is the tendering process? The New South Wales government has invested $2.3 billion in taxpayers' money into the new intercity fleet. The government states the new fleet has advanced technology not available on existing intercity trains, including 8 internal and 4 external CCT cameras in every carriage. It also has onboard help points. In juxtaposition, the union and City Rail staff are raising awareness of safety concerns about the new intercity fleet, that passengers would allegedly be at risk from crucial blind spots in surveillance, meaning they could have undetected accidents or fall into the gap between the train and platform, and staff would be unable to hear. Additionally, drivers and guards will have to rely solely on monitoring from CCTV cameras mounted on the sides of the trains, which have no audio and restricted line of sight because of the design of the carriages. This is going to replace the current system of intercity guards undertaking in-person physical checks of passengers boarding and disembarking trains. So we've already got the situation where we're bringing in more and more automated technology that does away with actual people's jobs. And the people that conductors and the staff are raising in the union that there's really serious safety concerns. And I've just got a question because I want to know how Clara is part of the infrastructure. So the Clara plan is to build the world's most livable, sustainable and connected cities in Victoria and New South Wales, connected by a world-class high-speed rail. There's going to be 3 smart cities between Canberra and Sydney. And it's a partnership, it's a public-private partnership, but the government there's partnership as well with CSIRO and Telstra, amongst others. And they use a value creation model for their profit. So the Clara plan proposes to use the proceeds of future land sales to fund the cost of establishing new smart cities and high-speed rail. And this approach shifts away from traditional funding models. So this is what they're saying. I've just copied this from their page. What is value creation and value capture? Value creation is the use of proceeds from the uplift in value of land that comes from transport and other infrastructure being built nearby. Value capture allows for part of the land value uplift to partly or wholly fund physical and social infrastructure. Governments have traditionally used many forms of taxes, charges, duties, levies, and private contributions to capture value. So I find that all a little bit confusing. In Clara's case, we are creating value, then capturing that value to offset the capital cost of high-speed rail and upfront infrastructure of new Clara Smart City. So I wrote to Clara, I don't know, about 6 weeks ago. I emailed them to ask them a few questions so I could understand what they're talking about with their value capture modeling. And I asked, if people already live on the land, where are you going to create the smart cities? What's the process for buying land from people who own it? What are people's options if they don't want to sell? If they sell, how do they buy back into the smart city? In regard to Clara's value creation model, and this is my sense of it, you profit off the difference between the value of land brought compared to the value when smart city infrastructure is activated. Does this mean people have to spend a lot more to buy back into the city compared to what was previously paid for their land? I never got an answer. I have never heard back from the Clara consortium. But my question to the state government is, do they have a value creation model? And is the Clara consortium, the Clara plan, is it part of what's coming to the 6 megacity? Is this the same company as Clara who's going to build the high-speed rail? Where do they fit into this picture? Region Shaper 3, housing supply, diversity and affordability. Current New South Wales government initiatives underway to create more inclusive and sustainable housing sector include fast-tracking infrastructure, property tax reform, offering shared equity for first home buyers and revitalising social and affordable housing. So what's their analysis of why so many people in 2022 are struggling with housing affordability? What government measures contributed to this? What government measures contributed to inflation? How do the pandemic measures implemented contribute to people struggling with housing affordability? Finally, there was a huge price rise in houses through 2020. Were these houses bought by investment firms? And how do we get transparent information on this? What do they mean by fast-track infrastructure? How will they ensure that infrastructure is safe, open to public scrutiny and well built? And what safety mechanisms are there and who is responsible? How is property tax going to be reformed? What does that mean? What is their definition of affordable? Is there land they're referring to when they say a large-scale program of building social and affordable housing is this going to be on currently owned government land? If not, how will government procure this land? What were the causes of the rental surges as documented? They documented in the report that they surged 9.1% between May 21 and May 22, as well as what created the rental vacancies. What information are you relying on to make the claim climate fuel disasters are increasingly driving internal displacement? What displacement are you talking about, and how is this relevant to this paper and this region? What do you envisage as approaches to incentivise achievement of housing targets? Can you please supply some examples? The plan states that the Commission will work with local government. How can Central Coast residents ensure that our council represents our concerns when we are currently under administration and have no representation on council? This is a transformation of how we live and work. It's set to transform every aspect of our lives. Isn't it undemocratic that we do not have any council representation currently? What are the new financing models that they reference? And what's their funding model for affordable housing and who oversees it? What investments? So this is Region Shaper 4, inclusive places linked to infrastructure. What investments? They talk about resilience a lot. What investments do they see promoting resilience? What is their definition of resilience? What makes a resilient community, in our opinion, is one where people can have an active voice and build authentic relationships, not something that is implemented by government. What definitions are you using for equitable, inclusive? What grounds do you foresee to make the place non-inclusive? What if someone doesn't want to have a digital ID, central bank digital currency, carbon credits, social credit scores, vaccine passports, smart devices, extensive surveillance? Will the city be inclusive then? And though they don't mention any of those plans in this actual 6 megacity plan, this is a key component of smart cities and is being discussed all around the world. How do you weigh up people's fundamental right to live and to be able to access goods and services versus control measures, which will be implemented in smart cities? How do they define sense of safety? How do they define the term well-being? And the Central Coast City Innovation District is likely to focus on health, technology, and food manufacturing. Where can we locate the mapping of services, forums, and groups which are set up around these three industries? How can the community have input into this and a seat at the table? Region Shaper 5, powering local jobs and economies. What are high powering economy? What are high performing industries? How do you define a resilient economy? What is the innovation district which the Central Coast will be involved in? Who are the key forums, groups, and private public partnerships which we should be aware of related to the Central Coast Innovation Hub? When you state companies are able to scale up, innovate, and broaden their market reach, how will you ensure that small business is supported and that large corporates don't overtake the market as what happened during COVID-19 lockdowns? When you state the Commission will work with our partners to develop a network of globally significant innovation districts, who are the partners you are referring to? The growth of the knowledge economy and diversification of industry sectors will support jobs for the future. Can you please explain the knowledge economy and what you mean by diversification of industry sectors? How will artificial intelligence be used? How will artificial intelligence used in smart cities impact on jobs? Which jobs will be impacted on, and how do you plan to deal with this? How is this linked to the fourth industrial revolution? Region Shaper 6, climate resilient green cities, climate change. What is a climate proofed house and what infrastructure materials does this include? What technologies are included in this? What implications do these new technologies, smart technologies, have on people's privacy and rights? How do you plan to transform how we build cities? What does this entail? Growth in renewable energy and electrification of transport, homes and industry and business. We include in a submission to Energy Co regarding the Renewable Energy Zone Plan. We would like our concerns and questions that we raise in this submission answered by greater cities, as there is an immediate connection to Region Shaper 6. Our Energy Co submission is included with this submission. We're going to put them both together. We note that there needs to be more transparent connection made by state government between these two transformative plans so the public is aware of the intersections and therefore can better understand the implications. Circular economy is mentioned. The plan references recycling and waste. Is that all that will be involved in the circular economy? If not, what else is relevant? So in terms of resilient cities, the plan states recycled water region plans and city plans will identify areas and cities which are exposed and vulnerable to climate risks. What is your definition of climate risks? And if an area is assessed as a climate risk, what does this mean for people who own land, live in that area? What safety mechanisms are in place for people's private ownership of land in an area assessed as vulnerable to climate risks? So next steps. When the report talks about that they're putting together a framework for monitoring and evaluation. So when will this be ready for public view? And will there be community feedback sought? For the Central Coast, they talk about the joint organisation of councils or regional organisations of councils. What are they referring to? Can we please have the list and contact details? If this is not at this point ready, how can we be alerted to when it is? How are they going to make public the submissions they receive for this plan? How do they plan to respond to these submissions? How are they going to ensure that community members have equitable access to stakeholder groups? For example, the Regional Australia 2-day conference recently cost over $1,000 to attend. How is this equitable? If only the wealthiest people in Australia are able to afford to have a seat at the table, how is this equitable? What is your position on influential forums and groups not being accessible to community members? How does the community have a say? Can you please inform us of all the different options the community has for stakeholder engagement regarding the 6 megacity rollout? A few more questions. We note that you reference the World Economic Forum in your appendices. How do you reconcile the conflict of interest inherent in the World Economic Forum strategic partners, who constitute the wealthiest corporations in the world, which are heavily invested in many of the new technologies being advanced through smart cities? Additionally, as you use the United Nations 17 Strategic Development Goals as your framework for the plan, how do you reconcile the United Nations and the World Economic Forum 2019 strategic partnership formed to implement the 17 Strategic Development Goals? How is this 6 mega city plan connected to Resilient Cities, which was funded by the Rockefeller Foundation? And the Rockefeller Foundation are intrinsically involved in the World Economic Forum, heavily invested in new synthetic food markets, which will be rolled out in the smart cities, as well as digital ID 2020. What is the framework for how you keep the needs balance between community members and big corporates in the public-private partnerships which you endorse? This is obviously fraught, and there has been no discussion from government regarding this. How does the Commission affect local councils and their role? What are the implications for local councils' ability to truly represent the people? Council's role and the Central Coast. The Central Coast has not had any councillors since 2021, and we will not have the opportunity to have councillors until 2024. So therefore, no one besides one man, the administrator, is available for the community to ask questions to ask for representation to the Commission about the 6 mega city plan. How do you see this as a fair or transparent situation for community members in which to roll out a transformative plan that affects many aspects of the community's lives? We also note that you've had 2 extensive and transformative plans unfurled at the same time, the renewable energy zone and the 6 megacity. How is this true community consultation, considering the level of research needed, the landscape that these plans are embedded in, and the far-reaching implications of the plans? What is the obligation for the Central Coast Commissioner to meet with the Central Coast community to hear concerns and considerations? What is our recourse if our attempts are sidelined? What structure is in place in case the community do not feel they are being adequately represented by their specific commissioner? And I haven't 100% finished this, but this is what it's also really, really telling what isn't being said. So these are all things that are being rolled out, and these are all aspects to living in a smart city, but there is no mention of this within the plan. There's no mention of digital identification, central bank digital currency, public-private partnerships, value capture models, nature asset companies, carbon credits, artificial intelligence, universal basic income, social impact bonds, wellbeing monitoring, social contract, social credit scores, surveillance technology, facial recognition technology, smart cities and the workforce, blockchain, the Great Reset, technocracy, Internet of Things, Internet of Bodies, Fourth Industrial Revolution, and 5G. The food technologies being planned for smart cities, including CRISPR-edited, GMO, insects, 3D meat, lab-created meat and milk, indoor planting under LED lighting, AI and robotic heavy, digital privacy, stakeholder capitalism, natural asset companies, energy-intensive data capturing technologies, and that 30 by 2030. Without giving people the full picture, the community is unable to give informed consent or raise all concerns and considerations. What is the state government's obligation? To give a transparent picture of what the smart city will look like, not just painting a vision, but exploring all the complexities and giving people a complete picture. What say does the community really have in government and public-private partnership plans? The corporations behind the World Economic Forum. So here's just a link to the 100 companies who are the most highly invested in the World Economic Forum. And this is for reference for people listening to this, to have a look and see if you're comfortable with these companies, these banks, and these philanthropies who have business arms invested deeply in the new technologies being embedded with our government. So submission transparency. How will the Commission acknowledge community submissions? How will the community be made aware of what submissions are put in regarding the 6 megacity plan? How will the Commission address and answer our questions? What recourse do we have as a community if our questions and concerns are not adequately addressed? We are a voice for the community. In government language, we are a stakeholder, and we insist on having a meaningful place in any transformative plan which will drastically affect the life of our children and our community. We request that the Central Coast Commissioner makes the time to come and speak to our community to address our concerns raised in this submission. And then you just need to you send your submission as an email, and you can sign up to get their newsletters and to get updates. They state on their website that this discussion paper is the start and they will run community consultation. I suggest we get active, coordinated, and strategic, and insist that our concerns are heard.